I used to say that training was my meditation because it's kind of, you're focusing on one thing, focusing on one subject. I'm focused on this exercise and lifting this weight and feeling the muscle stretch and feeling it contract. And while I'm doing that, I'm not thinking about anything else. So my mind is getting a rest from all the other shit, like whatever I gotta do today, what about the bills, what about this, what about that, you know, that's all gone. When I went to the gym, that is all gone. So exercise is a form of meditation as well. It all fits together, you know, meditation, physical exercise, diet, the whole thing, the whole lifestyle, it all goes together.
All right, now, this one's gonna be a good one. I can feel it, especially because the muscle group we're focusing on today really aids in developing a pretty nasty taper if you're able to develop it right. So small waist, wide shoulders, what's in between. That's gonna be the lats, kind of broader overall back development, especially when you build that depth, you know, kind of from the side. If you see a side shot of a sick looking physique, you obviously have the chest in front, but then you kind of have the rear delt, the traps, the rhomboids, you know, everything giving you that three-dimensional look. So we'll talk a little bit today, or I'll break down how to build thickness and that width for that taper, and kind of how I go about doing that within the training session and break things down exercise by exercise here. And on that note of training, I've gotten some questions on what pre-workout stack I like taking before I go into a session. So it's been the same for a little while because it works so well. I pair Raw's Savage pre-workout, and I only do about half a scoop to maybe 3/4 of a scoop, just because it is so heavily dosed as is, which is nice, extends the life of the tub. I'll take my 5-gram serving of creatine with that just to get it in. Timing doesn't matter, it's just easy for me to remember to take it daily if I'm mixing it with my pre-workout. And then I add their liquid glycerol, which is just insane for helping deliver fuller pumps. It works a little bit differently than like an L-citrulline, which is helping blood flow. That glycerol really shuttles more water into the muscle, so you get a nice fuller pump. And then of course your performance is there for the session, energy, focus, all that good stuff. So I do work with Raw. Shout out to them as the sponsor of the channel. And if you do want to shop anything, code MERC will save you 15 to 20% depending on the sale that's going on this week. So I'll leave a link below, or of course you could go to the site. And other than that, if you try it, I hope you enjoy it. And let's get into a back session. Let's get into how exactly we're going to go about doing this with today's workout. All right, so there's gonna be really 3 kind of key principles. Number 1 is going to be, we'll call it connection, which is kind of dictated by the position you're in. How to set up into each exercise correctly so that you can connect with the lats. The second of which is going to be tempo. This is going to be massive for getting the most out of each rep in each movement. We want to look at, we'll call it range of motion, getting to a good stretched position with the muscle. So at the top of each rep, when the back, where the muscle we're trying to train in the back is fully stretched, how we can kind of safely get there, but still get there so we maximize mechanical tension so the muscle then wants to grow for us. First thing I do on my back sessions, first movement, is really connection. With the pull down, when I get in a position here, what I'm trying to do is get kind of underneath the cable machine as best I can, so that I can pull straight down. I prefer to not pull back at an angle. So if you see, I like to go off one knee, and that allows me to align whatever arm I'm doing with the actual cable. So I'm not pulling off to the left or to the right. My arm is directly underneath the cable. I'm really focused on the tempo. So I'm contracting down hard, keeping the elbow tight, close to my torso, not flaring it out. And lastly, that range of motion is coming into play because at the top of each rep, I'm able to get a full stretch on my lat, really open it up. It makes the movement harder, but it more effectively opens up and trains my lat T-bar row. Similar to the first movement, I'm typically doing 2 warm-up sets till I get to my working weight, which I'm doing about 10 to 10 to 12 reps on. The rep ranges are more guidelines for the intensity. Because my elbows are a little bit higher here as I come up, I'm not just contracting the lat, but I'm getting a good bit of rhomboid, a little bit of rear delt, some trap activation, really the muscles across that upper back as well, which is what I'm trying to target here to develop some thickness. Tempo is important. I want to control the negative, get a full deep stretch, open up, complete range of motion, and then squeeze from that stretch each time. You know, sometimes I'll have a spotter help me get up a couple extra positives so I can focus on the negatives for a few here. So once I finish my second working set, I'm moving on to a barbell row. Really with the position, if you notice, I'm doing a dead stop row. The muscles worked here are pretty similar. You know, I'm getting some trap activation. I'm getting a really good stretch on my lat because I'm keeping the form relatively strict. Really, I wish I would have recorded the second set because I slowed it down substantially, kind of exaggerated a negative once I got to the top. And then to go beyond failure here, what I'll start doing is then using a little bit more momentum with the weight, really start ripping it a little bit. But again, kind of controlled in the pocket of the range of motion that I want to be in. And then the benefit of this is since it's not chest supported, I'm getting a nice little bit of work on my low back, so those erectors as well. And then next I slowed things down a bit more are these cable rows. It's not as heavy a weight, I'm pretty warmed up. This guy just went straight into the 2 working sets on. Again, about 10 to 12 reps each arm. In order to get a good connection, I'm keeping that elbow tight to my side as I allow the weight to go forward, keeping my torso relatively neutral. Again, from that fully stretched position, I'm squeezing back, not with the arm, but imagining driving my elbow almost kind of to the center of my spine. That's giving me a great contraction. And then repeating these, I tend to not do partial reps with or reps past failure because once I get there, really a lot of the tension goes into my bicep. So I tend to just take these to failure. Then I moved on to the lat pull down. For a lot of these movements, when I train to failure, that's why you guys see me using straps, you know, even on these cable machines, because you know when you're doing a decent set, again 2 working sets at 10 to 12 reps, the weight is enough where what I don't want happening is my grip strength failing before I reach muscular failure on the muscles of the back that I'm actually trying to train. So that's why for most of my working sets on a heavy pull day, you guys will see me you know, using some kind of strap just to get better grip, better connection with the bar, and transfer the weight more directly again to the muscles I'm actually trying to take to failure. Once I get to the very bottom, almost mentally think about pausing for a half second, which allows me to really focus on controlling that negative again, where the muscle's lengthening, opening up the lat, and really putting some good tension on it to hopefully force it to grow. Today's pull day wasn't as rear delt heavy as some of my other ones, so move straight into a single arm bicep curl, doing about 10 to 12 reps for my working sets. I prefer to do 1 arm at a time just because it's more fatiguing on the muscle, because instead of, if you do alternating, you're essentially resting, you know, every other rep. So I really want to build up consistent time under tension on that muscle to take it to failure, and I get a better pump that way as well, doing them 1 arm at a time here. And with most curls, what I'm trying to do is keep my elbow in a relatively fixed position, because the more I come forward with that arm curling, the more it brings in a little bit of front delt and takes the tension off the bicep. So, and then I finished off the session with one of my favorite machines at this gym, which is the preacher curl. At this point, I'm not doing a ton of weight, so I went straight into my working sets for, again, about another 10 to 12 reps. And then I'm doing, you know, a good controlled 8 to 10. And once I get there, Vaughn's pushing me, having me rip, you know, a few extra ones, again, with control, just a little faster tempo. Or again, sometimes I'll have a spotter help me with the positive, so the contraction, and then I control the negative in order to extend the set, go beyond failure. And again, just another way to put more tension on the muscle to drive more hypertrophy or more growth. All in all, really solid pull session here. Honestly, I'm still trying to open up my back more, imposing, but what I think is really cool is sticking to these principles, especially getting a full range of motion, being in the proper position, controlling tempo, has helped open up my lat. So yes, I do some work to stretch out outside of my training, but this type of training also helps mobility. So if you're training with intent like this, you may actually notice, at least I've noticed over time, I've been able to pose better, open things up a little bit more because the muscle's more comfortable in an open position. I have more control over it. So just a cool little additional bonus. You're not just growing more muscle, but at the same time you're gaining control, almost this like mastery and manipulation of your own body beyond just the typical workout, get a pump and go home. So hopefully this breakdown is helpful. Let me know if you guys like this kind of structure and analysis of videos. I really enjoy doing this and breaking down my training, so I'll do more to come. But shoot, that's a pull session, and I'll catch you in the next video. Thanks for watching.